So I know you were critical of Utah Governor Spencer Cox. Do you think it's that a guy like him, who seems like a really nice guy, but I don't know that, with all due respect, that the governor's ever had that kind of force put against him, right? He lives in Utah. He talks about Utah nice and all this stuff. And the question I have for you is it because he's misguided or he's never experienced it?
No, I think it's totally different. Hang on, first off, if Sean Spicer was our comms director, and look, I'm close to Chung and these guys, but I've been on this. I don't know why he was selected to give the opening thing on that Thursday night when he walked through the whole police and gave a lot of false information, which is not his fault. He's not a law enforcement guy. No, let's go back to Cox. And it has nothing to do with he's the most virulent anti-Trump governor of a red state. Okay, let's put that aside. He has bought into the whole woke mentality. My problem with Cox early on, Cox is a guy, remember, I think it was in his first term, had the Zoom call where he went through the pronouns and he told all the transgender ideology in all the schools in Utah, public schools in Utah, that, hey, we're going to have an aggressive program of promoting this. And he gave his pronouns, right? He has been a proponent, and his wife, Abby Cox, who has led this kind of focus on the empathy crisis, which pushes SEL, social emotional learning. The young man that is so allegedly shot, or the group in the chat rooms, also what you're seeing with Mom Donnie or Luigi Mangione, it's all the same thing. They are indoctrinated from kindergarten on by, I would say, a group of essentially terrorists who get them and form them to hate America, hate the American Republic, our culture, the taproot of the Judeo-Christian West. These kids are taught to hate, and now they're taught that, hey, maybe I'm a little girl instead of a little boy, and it's twisted from day one. How do I know this? Don't listen to Steve Bannon. Read the manifestos. Read the manifesto of the Minneapolis shooter. Go back and read the manifesto, which we only have 80% of the young woman who went through the Christian school in Nashville. Just read these manifestos. They're heart-rendering. Why are they heart-rendering? What these children go through at the hands of supposedly, doctors and psychiatrists and school psychiatrists. It's absolutely sick. Okay, and to twist these people. Cox is the epitome of that. And Cox talks to a deeper issue. One of the reasons I'm saying Cox has got to be part of this investigation, because that school system created this. And I've had a huge outpouring of conservative Mormons because, Sean, I went out there right after Charlie was shot on was it Wednesday or Thursday? Wednesday, got there and spent 4 days there. I was shocked what I found in Salt Lake. And I think this is a lesson for all Republican politicians and MAGA. The world has changed so much. I thought the last time I've been to Salt Lake was during the Winter Olympics back, a couple of decades ago. Hey, there are as many LGBTQ flags as American flags. It has got a big woke segment in the Mormon church, because remember, the shooter, all these people associated, plus the young man who was transitioning that killed his parents and burned the house down in St. George, where the shooter actually lives, is also Mormon. There's a huge rift, I think, in the Mormon church between more traditional Mormons and kind of that rock-ribbed Americana that the Mormon church has always, represented to so many people, and this kind of new woke Mormonism. That has to be addressed. With Cox specifically, it has to be his education policies, particularly the pushing of this radical transgender ideology and how it warped people. So no, I think he's part of the problem. I think he was a horrible spokesman to have up there, right? Yeah. And it's and not just because he's anti-Trump, because he's kind of the guy that's brought this on. And I'm adamant. He can say I'm a conflict entrepreneur, but hey, it's called War Room for a reason, baby. No, we're not. I'm not shy about what we're doing here. We're in a conflict, right? We're in a civil war in this country. You're going to have a civil war in England. What I want to do is make sure that this happens, as we've always advocated, peacefully, and that we're the victors at the end.
I know you guys have heard me talk about this over and over again. If you're on a wellness journey, sleep is at the absolute core of any wellness journey. I have improved my sleep, my wellness, through Beam's Dream Powder every night. I crush this stuff. Crush it. I tell you. I take a scoop of it, put it in some water in the microwave for 30 seconds. It's amazing. It tastes great. I love this stuff. It is literally part of my routine every night. Go to shopbeam.com/Spicer. Use code word Spicer for 40% off. Buy as much as you can, because that promo code Spicer works amazingly on your first order. Shopbeam.com/Spicer, code word Spicer. You used a word that I think I want to pick up on, because you said something a second ago that might have gotten unnoticed. You said alleged. Do you believe that the person that they have in custody is the assassin, that he acted alone, according to what law enforcement's telling us, that the extent to which we know that text exchange is it, or is there more that we're not being told?
Number one, I think it was the first to say it, and this is why I think the terrorism is so important. We must take this away, what local authorities trying to do, and I think even elements of the FBI, from a simple murder investigation, assassination, but a murder investigation, to a broader, how did this happen? Really to get them back of a conspiracy if it exists. And that's why I think the terror designation will begin to help us do it even more than RICO charges. Number two, on the evidence that I have been presented, and I have been very close on top of this, and I'm talking about video, text, etc. No, I just don't believe it. First off, the text message exchange is an insult to our intelligence. What do I mean? I work the production. We have Grace Chung and Mo and Natalie Winters. So many of our people, the front groups, the marketing side, and doing the media are young women who we're training and bringing up. The actual physical production of the broadcast and the podcast, all that, I employ a lot of young men, TV producer types, right, are learning the trade, 22 to 29 years old. They text like they speak, and they don't speak like that. They're the most inarticulate generation in our country. If you can get a couple of Uggs out of them, you're doing great. It is impossible. And don't treat me like an idiot that this guy wrote those text messages, okay? It strains credulity and treats you like an idiot. So I don't know what's happened, but I'm telling you right now, that was not written by the kid in the moment. Think about it for a second. He's just executed, assassinated, right? One of the most prominent people in the world. It's going to be a world event. He can already tell that. And he's got enough time to have phrases like, hate can't be negotiated with, or it's everything from the grammar to the structure to how long was the ellipses, everything like that. But then it was the details. Like he's telling his lover that, oh, my father's gotten so MAGA since Trump. They've had a million conversations about that. If it was done, it would be done quickly. That was a bad Hollywood script. Right? We got to get to the bottom of all of this. We have to get to the bottom of all of it in the Discord chats. And my big concern has been, why have everybody in the Discord chats not been rolled up? How's the lover? I'm so tired of hearing, well, he didn't know anything about it. He said he didn't know anything about it. Oh, fine, great. That's not a problem. Roll him up. Roll the parents up. You got to roll the parents up. Why was the car left to sit out in front of the house for hours after hours? And most importantly, the videos don't make sense, the ones they've put up. Whether he's walking through peg leg on the doorbell ringer, which they kind of buried after a while, but now they brought it back up on the day they charged him, to walking up the steps where there's no peg leg, to the fact that the governor on television that first night talked about him coming in one set of clothes and changing on the roof and then going to another set of clothes. Also, I don't know if you can see a rifle being dropped off, and I don't think a guy who's literally sitting there, maybe in the last moments of his life, is going to be worried about grandpa's rifle. And grandpa's going to be really upset that I lost his rifle. Dude, you just murdered in cold blood a young man that the whole world's going to want you up against a firing squad. Your family name's ruined forever. Come on. I don't buy any of it. I have advocated to Cash personally and also on the show nonstop. I do believe, and you don't want to show all your evidence, but somebody's got to get up, law enforcement, and make a presentation. That presentation, the DA has already done it. I think Cash or somebody at DOJ, if it's Pam Bondi and Cash should be saying, and Dan Bongino, if other professionals and technicians or more technical people have to talk, let them do that. But before the nation, we just ought to walk through the videos they presented the other day in court and some of these text messages and others and make a logical presentation. In the entire war room audience, who would be open to believe that, yes, a guy living with a tranny who is a furry and who watches tranny porn and is a lefty, be open to the fact, yes, he killed Charlie Kirk. Not one person in our audience believes it. And they want to be shown the facts and they want to be shown the detail. And I hope by designating this a terrorist organization that the FBI or local authorities do not try to push through a quick narrative that this is the a lone gunman, because I tell you, what we must avoid here, Sean, for this generation, for Charlie Kirk's widow, for his children, for this generation, and for the country, we cannot have grassy knoll 2.0. We can't do that. It's still, it is the beginning of really the decline of America, was from the moment Kennedy was shot, and we still don't have the answers today, so we can't have that happen here. And we have to move heaven and earth to make sure that all the information comes out.
Makes you wonder. That's why ABC News thought it was a very thoughtful exchange, because they were touched by it.
Not thoughtful, loving. I mean,
yeah, loving.
I played that in the audience. I mean, so first off, that's something about the mainstream media. I was shocked the number, and this is why the gap's unbridgeable. There were so many of the reporters that were teary-eyed about the loving exchanges between that. And to his defense, for one moment, they were like Shakespeare's sonnets. Honey, I just thought, we'd live forever to old age. I'd never have to slow it. No guy in the pressure of a manhunt and coming down on you is going to write a Shakespeare sonnet to somebody. It does not happen. Okay. That is why it's an insult to our intelligence. Now, the guy being moved, I did mention that David Muir was the executive producer of ABC News, but hey, I tell you, the guy wrote a Shakespeare sonnet in the heat of battle, and it just didn't happen. It just strains credulity. And that's why putting out those text messages were and using those to me as the direct evidence to convince the nation that this guy is an insult to our intelligence.
I want to cover one more thing with you, and I'll ask it at the same time. You figure out how to answer it. The Fed only cut interest rates by a quarter basis point this week. Should Donald Trump fire Jerome Powell, number one? And if so, or when, who should be the replacement?
He should not fire Jerome Powell. I've been an advocate of not doing that. Jerome Powell, I do believe if you look at what Scott Bessent has said about the way the structure of interest rates are too high and they should be cut. I think you're offered another 50 basis points for the end of the year, 225. Steve Mirren, who's the president's interim governor, was the only no, and most of these are unanimous. The unanimity is usually historic as a custom and tradition. He voted no because he wanted 50 basis points. My strong belief, and I've been an advocate of this, that given where we are with the economy, given where we are with Build Back Better, what I call the supply side tax cut of this, I'm an advocate, and I've been, that Scott Bessent has proven, and this is not because he's a close friend and a contributor and on War Room for years. He's proven, as I said at the time, was the big fight between Elon and Lutnick and myself and Scott Bessent and others with Scott Bessent, that Scott would be a safe pair of hands. And what we need now more than ever is a safe pair of hands that the capital markets can respond to. And I think that where the stock market is, and particularly where the bond market is, shows that Scott has done a great job of interpreting President Trump's economic plans, executing them, and being able to articulate that to the global capital markets. I am a big believer that on an interim basis, that Scott Bessent should be both the head of the Federal Reserve and the Secretary of Treasury, and maybe get through the midterm elections, step down as Treasury and take over the Federal Reserve. I know there's guys that I really admire, like Kevin Warsh and Waller and other people that the president's thinking about. I just think for where we are, because I do believe we're going to go through some pretty choppy water here, that Scott Bessent being dual hat, like Marco Rubio's National Security Council, he's National Security Advisor and Secretary of State for an interim period. I think Scott should do it, get through the midterms as both, and then step down as Treasury and take over the remaining 9 years or so of
I'm convinced. I've said that there's a reason he keeps bringing, and I say this respectfully, people that are definitely not getting picked. He picks these people that he's parading out for the press that aren't good on TV, which is a Donald Trump thing, or have no relationship with him. He's literally setting himself up so that Donald Trump can say, "Why don't you do it? I really need you to do it." That's the strategy, Steve.
You can tell that Commander, soon to be Captain Spicer, has a very deep understanding of President Trump and the way things roll. I could not agree with you more, sir. But it's the first time I've heard anybody have the balls to say it publicly. But
no. This is Bessent. Look at the people that Scott Bessent is parading out. Again, respectfully, they're not good on TV and they don't have a relationship. At the end of this interview process, President Trump's going to say, "Scott, I've seen all these people. None of them can do it. I need you."
I just want to say that Scott is not doing a Dick Cheney's vice president hunt for Bush, right? He's not. They are looking, but you have to, and this gets back to why your point's so well taken and why Scott was a perfect fit. And look, people said, "Well, you're going on a limb." I said, no, this guy is really knows capital markets. He's very highly respected in that inner sanctum of guys that move markets. And he's very articulate. He's got kind of that Yale professorial approach to him. These people are very rare. It's the reason the Charlie Kirks and the Andrew Breitbarts, these are Donald Trump. These are rare people that don't come on. Now, Scott's not at that level, but for what he does, it's pretty rare. And you're absolutely correct. President Trump, and I think one of the things he's learned, Sean, is that he has to have a relationship that somebody knows how to interpret what he wants to do. And then they have to be able to articulate it and stand in the breach when you take some incoming. Because working for President Trump and executing his policies, as you know better than anybody, you're going to take some incoming, right? And that's where his real test, where the rubber meets the road. You're correct. The people that they're putting forward today are lacking on some of those big areas. I 100% agree with you. And that's why I'm a huge advocate of the dual hat, like with Marco Rubio. And I'm not saying it's permanent. It's just for a while. Let's get us through the midterms. I would say Scott would step down as Treasury, continue on with the Federal Reserve. And here's better. I think you will have overwhelming support when this becomes evident as a potential alternative. I think you'll be overwhelming support from Wall Street and the major financial institutions in the world, capital markets institutions, and the finance ministers throughout the world, that Bessent's a guy they would love to have in that position as a safe pair of hands.
All right. Steve, I appreciate all your time. I know you guys got a big show this weekend there in Arizona, where you are right now. I appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you this weekend.
We'll be live starting approximately 10 a.m. on Sunday.
Eastern or Pacific? Or Pacific?
So every time's in Eastern time. We'll go live right now, tentatively 10 a.m. Eastern. I think 11 o'clock is where the religious part starts, the celebration life a little after that. But we'll be with Real America's Voice on our channel doing anchoring the coverage from basically 10 in the morning to probably, 7 or 8 at night, which will pitch it to one of our other shows on RAV that'll take it through basically midnight. But it'll be an entire day and we're going to bring in people globally. We're really going to do this right. And fitting with Charlie Kirk and the fact that it is the first MAGA state funeral.
Yeah. Well, you and I also share that all times in the world should be stated in Eastern Standard Time.
100%.
That's 100%. Steve, have a great weekend. Travel safe. Look forward to seeing you on Sunday. Thank you.
Thank you, Commander.
Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.